My brother took my car. Without asking, while I slept, so I reported it stolen, pressed charges, and watched him get taken away without explaining myself. I'm a 24-year-old guy, and I've always felt like I was invisible in my family. My parents have this unspoken hierarchy. My older brother is the golden child, the one who can do no wrong, while I'm stuck being the scapegoat for every little mistake. It's exhausting, feeling like nothing I do will ever be enough. I try to stay out of trouble, keep my head down, and just live my life, but apparently even that isn't safe. The car, my car, was one of the few things I actually had control over. A blue hatchback I saved for years to buy. My pride and my freedom all wrapped in 4 wheels. I loved it like it was mine and mine alone. An escape. A symbol that I had something they couldn't touch. My brother has always had a sense of entitlement, a kind of cocky confidence that makes me sick sometimes, but I never expected him to cross this line. It started like any other Friday night. I came home from work, dropped my keys on the counter, grabbed a soda from the fridge, and tried to relax. My brother was in his room, headphones blasting whatever music he thought was cool, probably laughing at something online with his friends. I wanted to ask him how his day went, but I didn't. Because honestly, what was the point? Nothing I say ever matters to anyone in that house anyway. I locked my bedroom door like I usually do and crawled into bed, thinking I could at least have a few hours of peace. The hum of the ceiling fan, the faint smell of the leftover pizza from lunch, even the muted glow of my phone charging on the nightstand. All of it felt safe, like a little bubble I had carved out for myself. Little did I know, that sense of safety was about to be ripped away. I had no idea that by morning my world would be upside down, and my trust in the people I was supposed to call family would be shattered. The night felt normal. Too normal. I kept replaying little moments from the week in my head, thinking about work, bills, and how I needed to get gas before the weekend. My brother's laugh drifted faintly through the walls, carefree like he had no consequences in life. I envied that, but I pushed the thought away. I'd always been careful, always responsible, and somehow that never earned me respect, just invisible acknowledgement at best. I remember checking my phone one last time before sleep. Messages from friends, a funny meme from my cousin. I laughed quietly to myself, feeling that fleeting sense of relief, that bubble of normalcy that felt so fragile in my house. Outside, the wind rattled the windows slightly, and the night smelled faintly of rain lingering in the pavement. Everything seemed quiet, safe. Somewhere in the back of my mind, a tiny unease lingered. My brother had been acting strange all week, borrowing things without asking, lying about little chores, being vague about where he was going. I tried to ignore it. Why ruin my peace with paranoia? I told myself I wasn't going to let him ruin my night, my sanctuary, my space. I drifted off, the hum of my phone charging by my bed and the soft fan above acting like a lullaby. Sleep wrapped around me like armor. I had no clue that while I was drifting in and out of dreams, that armor was about to be pierced. I didn't hear the faint creak of the front door, the soft thud of tires on the driveway, the distant chirp of my car alarm's pre-warning sensor. I didn't notice the shadows moving outside, careful, deliberate. By the time I woke up in the morning, the calm had vanished, replaced with the kind of dread that makes your stomach drop and your heart hammer. And in that moment, I knew something was very wrong. Something I never thought my own brother would dare to do. I woke up later than usual, groggy and half asleep, reaching for my phone to check the time. That's when I noticed it. The keyring wasn't on the nightstand. My chest tightened. Okay, maybe I left it somewhere, I muttered to myself, trying to rationalize it. But deep down, a sinking feeling started to coil in my stomach. I swung my legs off the bed and felt the cold floor under my feet. The apartment smelled like yesterday, but something felt off. My mind raced. My car. The hatchback. My freedom. My pride. I ran to the window and looked down at the driveway. Empty. My car wasn't there. My heart slammed against my ribs like it wanted out. No note, no explanation, no sign of anyone being around. I grabbed my phone and frantically scrolled for messages. Nothing. I called my brother, straight to voicemail. I texted him, "Where's my car? Answer me." No reply. I ran downstairs, my feet pounding the stairs, adrenaline mixing with fear and disbelief. Neighbors' cars lined the street, but mine was gone. Just gone. I felt my hands shaking as I dialed my parents. My dad picked up first, groggy and annoyed. "What is it now?" he muttered. "My car's gone," I said, my voice cracking. "What do you mean it's gone? Are you joking?" His tone made my chest tighten even more. No urgency, no understanding. My mom's voice, when she finally answered, was just as flat. "Maybe you parked it somewhere and forgot." I knew better. I had driven it home the night before, parked in the exact same spot. My brother had the spare keys. My stomach sank further. I realized with a mix of disbelief and fury that he had taken it while I slept. My brother. The one person I thought I could trust, or at least assume, wouldn't cross that line. I stood in the driveway, the morning sun glaring off the asphalt, my hands clenched into fists, heart hammering, trying to catch my breath. Rage, betrayal, and helplessness collided inside me. And in that instant, I made a decision that I knew would change everything. My brother was about to learn that actions have consequences. I stormed into the kitchen, still shaking, and found my brother lounging with a smug grin, headphones around his neck. "Hey, you awake yet?" he asked casually, like nothing was wrong. My blood boiled. "Where's my car?" I demanded, my voice sharper than I intended. His eyes widened just slightly, but not with guilt, more like amusement. "What car?" he said, tilting his head, pretending innocence. "The one you took while I was sleeping," I shot back. He laughed, a low, dismissive chuckle, and shook his head. "Relax, I just borrowed it. Didn't think you'd care." My heart sank, disbelief clashing with anger. "Borrowed it? Without asking? While I was asleep? That's not borrowing, that's theft." I tried to keep my voice steady. "You can't just take someone's car. That's not okay." He leaned back, shrugging, and said, "I didn't steal it. I was going to bring it back. Chill out." Every word was designed to gaslight me, to make me doubt my own logic, my own sanity. I felt a sharp pang of frustration. He knew exactly what he was doing, and he was enjoying it. I glanced around the kitchen. My parents were nearby, casually sipping coffee, clearly avoiding taking sides. "See?" he smirked, catching my glance. "Everyone thinks you're overreacting." I felt trapped, not just by him, but by the entire house, the way my family always lets him slide while I carry the blame for everything. I gritted my teeth, swallowing the urge to lash out physically. My mind raced through all the options. If I yelled, nothing would change. If I left it alone, nothing would change. But if I took action, real action, I could finally hold him accountable. I felt a cold determination settle in, and just like that, the seed of a plan was planted. One that would shock my family, change the balance in our household, and make him realize actions have consequences whether you like it or not. But I couldn't do it yet. I had to wait. I had to be smart. And he had no idea what was coming. I went back to my room and closed the door, breathing like I'd just run a sprint. The air felt thin and loud. Every creak in the house sounded like accusation. I sat on the edge of my bed and stared at the phone on the nightstand, the screen still warm where I'd held it. Logic and anger tangled inside me. One side wanted to scream, the other wanted a quiet, clean solution that couldn't be gaslit away. I paced, replaying the kitchen scene. His shrug, my parents' silence, the smug look that said he knew he'd get away with it. Again, I thought about what reporting it would mean. Police statements, paperwork, possible arrest. I thought about family fallout, Thanksgiving dinner tension, my dad's disappointed face, but I also thought about every time I'd swallowed my anger because family meant protecting his mistakes. How many more times would I let him treat me like the background? I pulled up photos of the hatchback. My hands fumbled as if holding proof could steady me. I thought about the spare keys he had, the nights he came home smelling like other people's cigarettes, the rumors I'd ignored. The idea of calling the police felt cold, but it was real. It was a way to make his choices have consequences outside our house's bubble of favoritism. I texted my closest friend, "If I report him, will you be with me?" His reply came quick, "I got you. Do it." That tiny message steadied me more than my parents ever had. I wrote and rewrote what I'd say to the officer, practicing a voice that wouldn't crumble under guilt or family pressure. I rehearsed being factual, unemotional, because I knew emotion would be used against me. Part of me hated the idea of involving police in family matters. The other part felt relieved, like a pressure valve finally letting go. I pictured the look on my brother's face if he realized I'd chosen this path. No yelling, no dramatics, just official action. I didn't want revenge. I wanted accountability. I took a deep breath, grabbed my keys, and left the room. I still hadn't told anyone what I planned. I couldn't explain myself yet, because if I did, the plan would die before it began. I sat in my car in the driveway for a long minute, staring at the steering wheel as if it could tell me what to do. The ride to the station felt too loud. The engine's hum, the city's distant sirens, my heartbeat. I rehearsed the words again and again so they wouldn't come out messy. Factual, clear, no crying, no begging. If I let any of that slip, they'd chalk it up to drama and my brother would walk away smiling. At the desk, the officer's clipboard felt heavier than I expected. "Name, date of birth, describe the vehicle," he said, pen poised. I told him, make, model, color, license plate, details I'd memorized. I explained where I'd parked it the night before, how I woke to find the keys missing, and why I suspected my brother had taken it. He typed steadily, asked questions that felt like little probes into my life. "Any prior incidents?" he asked. I swallowed. "He's borrowed things before without asking," I said. It was clinical, but the word borrowed tasted false in my mouth. Filling out the report was like engraving a line in concrete. I'd made it official. The officer asked if I wanted to press charges. The phrase landed like a physical blow. I thought about family dinners, my dad's disappointed eyes, my mom's soft voice saying, "We'll handle it." I imagined the fallout. Accusations, pity, betrayal multiplied. But then I pictured him taking the car and laughing, never learning. I said, quietly but firmly, "Yes, I want to press charges." He explained the next steps: investigation, potential recovery, interviews. He gave me a case number and a card with a name. I left the station feeling both brittle and oddly light, like I'd stepped off a cliff and the air was different. My phone buzzed. My mom, "Why would you do that? You could have handled it." My brother texted later, "You really went to the cops? Real mature." I wanted to answer both, but I didn't. I knew once this moved, it would spiral, and I had to be ready. As I walked back up my driveway, the house looked the same. Same paint, same porch, but I knew nothing inside it would stay the same. I opened the front door, and the living room was quieter than usual. Then I heard muffled voices coming from my brother's room. I froze outside his door, hearing the low hiss of his voice. "Yeah, I got it. Meet me at the lot in an hour," he whispered. My pulse spiked. I pressed my ear closer, holding my breath. "No, it's clean. No tracker. Just be ready with the cash," he added. "Cash, lot, my car." The pieces snapped together like a cruel puzzle. He wasn't just borrowing it, he was trying to sell it. I stumbled back, my heart slamming in my chest. This wasn't a mistake or a stupid impulse. It was deliberate. He had planned it, probably for days, and I'd been asleep while my trust was auctioned off. My hands shook as I texted my friend. "He's trying to sell it." The reply came instantly. "Call the officer, now." I stepped outside and dialed the number on the officer's card, my voice low but urgent. "It's me, the car theft report. He's trying to move it right now." The officer's tone shifted. I could hear him typing fast. "Stay put. Don't confront him. We'll handle it," he said firmly. Back inside, I watched my brother emerge from his room, whistling as he zipped up a hoodie. He didn't even glance at me. The arrogance, the ease. It was like watching a stranger in my brother's skin. My parents sat in the living room, oblivious. "Going out again?" my mom asked softly. "Yeah," he said, smirking. "Don't wait up." I wanted to scream, to throw the truth in their faces, but I bit my tongue so hard it hurt. If I exploded now, he'd run, and the whole thing would collapse. I just watched him walk out, knowing the next time he came back, he wouldn't be walking in so casually. I stayed by the window as his silhouette faded down the street, the officer's words echoing in my ear. "Stay put. We're on our way." I sat on my bed long after he left, staring at the wall like it owed me answers. Adrenaline had drained, leaving me hollow and raw. The house felt colder, emptier somehow, even though everyone was still around. My parents were in the living room, quietly watching TV, pretending nothing was happening, while my brother was out there trying to sell what was mine. The sense of betrayal hit harder than I thought possible. Guilt started to creep in. Was I wrong to involve the police? My stomach churned as I imagined family dinners, whispers behind closed doors, my dad's disappointed eyes. I could hear my mother softly muttering, "I just wish you had handled it differently." And it felt like a slap across the face. For a moment, I questioned myself. Maybe I had gone too far. Maybe I'd escalated things. Maybe I was being petty. But then I remembered the whispering, the plan, the casual way he treated my belongings like they weren't real, like I wasn't real. The betrayal wasn't in my choice. It was in his actions. I had been careful, deliberate, and for the first time, the power felt like it was shifting. I scrolled through my messages again. My friend checking in. The officer's last text confirming they were tracking him. Relief mixed with anxiety, and I realized I was completely alone in this. Not a single family member had asked if I was okay or supported me. The isolation was suffocating. Every memory of past slights, favoritism, and manipulation flooded back in waves, crashing over me. Tears stung my eyes, but I refused to cry openly. Not yet. I needed control, clarity. My mind raced through possibilities, replaying every decision, every step. And in that darkness, a strange calm settled over me. The moment before action, the weight of inevitability. I didn't know how it would end. I didn't know if I'd feel vindicated, or if I'd lose more than I already had. All I knew was that the next hours would define everything, and there was no turning back now. By mid-afternoon, the tension in the house was palpable, even though my brother was still out there. My parents had started dropping passive comments like tiny landmines waiting to explode. "Maybe you overreacted," my dad muttered while flipping through a magazine. "It's just a car," my mom added, voice soft but loaded with disappointment. Every word cut deeper than any shouting ever could. I wanted to snap, to scream, to make them understand. But I knew that would only give my brother an advantage. He thrived on chaos and guilt. He knew how to manipulate. I clenched my fists, counting breaths, trying to channel my anger into focus instead of shouting. I had already set things in motion. There was no turning back now. Then came the texts. Friends and distant relatives asking if I was okay. Some siding with my brother, some confused, all gossiping about the family's dysfunction. The comments echoed the household chaos. I was overreacting, I was too harsh, I was creating drama. But they didn't know the half of it. I bit back replies, letting the silence speak louder than anything I could type. I caught a glimpse of my brother on security footage from the driveway. He was walking calmly, whistling, carrying nothing suspicious, his face smug. My stomach twisted. He had no idea the net was closing. My mind raced. The police were on their way, his lies were unraveling, and yet he walked like he was untouchable. It felt surreal, watching him strut through the street as if nothing mattered, while my family sat in the house, oblivious to the truth. My hands were shaking, my heart pounding, but I also felt something new. Control. I wasn't powerless. I had made a choice that couldn't be gaslit away, and soon he'd see that actions have consequences. I leaned against the window, my eyes following him until he disappeared around the corner. The tension in my chest tightened, anticipation mingling with dread. I knew the next few hours would decide everything, and nothing in this house would ever be the same again. I heard the sirens before I saw the cars. Red and blue lights reflected off the walls of my bedroom as I pressed myself against the window, my chest hammering so hard I thought it would burst. My brother rounded the corner, hands in his pockets, completely unaware that his carefully constructed plan was about to collapse. Within minutes, a police car blocked the street. Officers stepped out, walking calmly but deliberately toward him. I watched, frozen, as one officer called out, "Sir, step aside. We need to speak with you." He froze for the first time, confusion spreading across his face, then panic. The audacity of thinking he could get away with it hit him like a brick wall. I stayed at the window, heart thudding as they handcuffed him. His protests were loud but weak. "Wait, I can explain. It's not what it looks like." But nobody was listening. The officers led him to the squad car, and he glanced back at the house, eyes locking with mine for a fraction of a second. In that moment, I didn't flinch, didn't offer a word, didn't give him the satisfaction of knowing how much I'd anticipated this. My parents stepped out into the driveway, stunned. My dad's jaw hung slack, my mom's hands covered her mouth. They had no words, and I realized then just how long my brother had been shielded by their blind favoritism. But all their shock didn't matter to me. I had done what I knew I had to do. As the squad car drove away, the silence of the street hit me, heavy and strange. Relief mixed with a flicker of guilt, but mostly there was satisfaction, a sense of justice, finally meted out. My brother's smug confidence, his casual arrogance, had been stripped away in front of everyone, and I hadn't needed to explain myself to anyone. I sank to the floor, hands resting on my knees, listening to the fading sirens. The house was quiet again, but I knew nothing would ever be the same. Not him, not my family, and not me. A storm had passed, leaving me battered, wary, and finally, free. The house felt both emptier and heavier the next morning. My brother was gone, taken into custody, and the silence left room for thoughts I hadn't allowed myself to have before. I walked through the living room, noticing the way the sunlight hit the floor, the faint smell of coffee my mom had brewed out of habit. Everything looked the same, but nothing felt the same. I thought about the weeks, months, even years of small betrayals, the casual lies, the favoritism, the way my feelings had always been dismissed. It all collided into this one moment, and for the first time I felt a kind of clarity. I realized I didn't need anyone's approval to enforce boundaries, to protect what was mine, to make sure my brother learned a lesson. It wasn't about revenge, it was about accountability. My parents avoided eye contact at breakfast. My dad muttered, "I didn't expect this," while my mom's hands trembled slightly as she poured juice. I wanted to explain, to justify, to tell them how long I had been pushed to the edge, but I didn't. Some things don't need explanations. Sometimes actions speak louder than words, and the police had already done what my family never would. I thought about my brother, imagining him in a holding cell, finally forced to confront the consequences of his behavior. A small part of me felt pity. He'd never understood boundaries, empathy, or responsibility, but another part felt relief, almost joy. The weight of constant worry, fear, and anger I had carried lifted just a little because I had stood up for myself. I spent the day quietly, cleaning, organizing, and reflecting. The betrayal still stung, but the sting had a sharp edge of empowerment now. I realized I could survive betrayal, manipulation, and family favoritism, and even walk away stronger. The house was quieter, the air clearer, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I had space to breathe. Yet, somewhere in the back of my mind, I knew that this wasn't the end. There were still lessons to learn, walls to rebuild, and trust to reconsider. But, for now, I let myself sit with the relief, the justice, and the knowledge that I had finally chosen myself. The days after my brother's arrest were strange, quiet, and unsettling. The house felt both safer and lonelier, like a calm after a storm I had been trapped in for years. I walked past my car parked in the driveway, untouched, gleaming in the morning sun, and for the first time, I felt a sense of ownership. Not just over my car, but over my life. It wasn't just metal and wheels anymore. It was proof that I had agency, that my boundaries mattered, and that I could stand my ground, even against my own family. Family dynamics shifted in subtle ways. My parents avoided confronting me directly, and my brother's absence left a void filled with lessons they could no longer ignore. I realized I didn't need their validation anymore. Their opinions, their approval, their favoritism, it had shaped me for too long. Now, I was the author of my own narrative, and for the first time that felt powerful. I spent hours reflecting on the past, on every time I had been dismissed, gaslit, or overlooked. And slowly, a sense of healing began to replace the resentment. I allowed myself to forgive. Not him, not them, but the version of myself that had tolerated silence and invisibility for too long. I could finally acknowledge my own strength without guilt. There was still tension, still unfinished business, but it no longer controlled me. I had learned that accountability wasn't about vindictiveness. It was about respect, fairness, and self-preservation. And as I drove my car again, feeling the engine hum beneath me, I realized that my freedom, my voice, and my dignity were mine alone. Looking back, I understood that some lessons can only be learned the hard way. Betrayal, favoritism, and manipulation had shaped me, but they hadn't broken me. I had survived, and I had acted when no one else would. And as the horizon stretched ahead, I felt ready, not just to move forward, but to reclaim my life fully, on my terms. Some doors had closed, others had opened, and for the first time in years, I felt like I belonged, to myself.